Hi friends, welcome into Teacher's Practice. This is a practice that I like to call beautiful backbends, which the name gives it away. We're going to look at backbends in the practice. But more specifically, I want to almost start with kind of a little motto of the class, an approach that I want you to think about throughout. And that tends to be a theme of a lot of the teacher's practices where I want you to consider a specific aspect of practice as you go through this specific practice. That's the essence of these practices where I'm giving you more nuanced things to look at, giving you aspects of consideration that hopefully will help build stronger foundations, deeper insights, and give you tools that you can then use and apply if you're teaching and using this as insights in the way that you share. Now, when I talk about beautiful backbends, what does that actually mean? And the idea of beautiful backbends is space. It's minimizing compression. It's creating thoracic opening as opposed to simply just lumbar compression. And a lot of times when we think about backbends, we're just thinking, how do we get it bigger? How do we get more extension? And that ends up being collapsing of lower lumbar. It means lack of integrity below the bend. And so when you think about a backbend, you have to think what's going above the backbend and what's going below the backbend. And in many ways, it's similar in idea to what we do with twists, where you have to understand that there's a pelvic aspect and a spinal aspect or a rib cage aspect. And that kind of is similar to when you think about backbends, because you have to think, what is the lumbar doing? What is the stable pelvis doing? And how do we create space away from that? And so the motto of this class is very much written on my shirt, choose love, or that idea of can you choose and make the right choices that keep your lower back happy, that allow you to create space in the body, and you continually do that without being tempted by the misguided temptation of bigger backbends. Hence why this is not called bigger backbends, it's called beautiful backbends. And if you think about this idea of beautiful backbends, it's done with integrity, done with space, done with grace, done with technique, and hopefully done in a way that's going to be helpful for you to use principles of practice in action and in motion. One of the things I always say when I'm teaching is, as a student or as a practitioner, your job is to make the right decisions that work for you. My job as a teacher is to give you options, opportunity, to give you insights, nuance, considerations, but you still have to take responsibility of what's relevant for you. You have to allow it to be intellectually understood and then applied into the body. You don't just want to do it just because me or any teacher says, do this, try this. Understanding concept, integrating technique is the best way that you can keep your lower spine, your full spine, lovely and happy. And that's really what I want to look at when we look at beautiful backbends today. Does that sound all right for you? Nat is here today, and she's going to help us be in a little bit of visual guidance. So you can look at Nat if you need insights to check in on. And I'm going to teach with Nat here, so she's going to help me out through the practice. But at the same time, you can use the sound of my voice. You can use the sound of my cues and just take the practice for what it is. And that's the way that these teacher practices tend to work. All right, everyone, you're going to start on your back. Constructed rest position. So Nat's going to go head here, toes away. You can do it in whatever position that works for you. And very simply, in constructed rest, knees are bent, feet are on the floor. And you're just going to start by simply allowing yourself to land in and start to settle down. As always, one of the best things that you can do is simply take the biggest breath you've taken all day. So with the mouth closed, eyes closed, you just take a nice big breath in. And then open your mouth, exhale. And super simple in that sense. So we're going to start by bringing our knees to the chest. And as you bring your knees to the chest, I want you to start to not just do any movement, but I want you to start to notice the sacrum, the triangle bone that sits at the back body. And you're going to find that as you start to make little circles of the sacrum, I want you to almost feel like you're tracing the edge of the sacrum. So you're almost tracing around the top edge, down one side and up the other. So I want you to go slowly. I want you to go specifically. And I want you to almost think, can I lock into this feeling of moving around the edge of the sacrum? And if it's the first time doing this, you might go, okay, I don't know what that feels like. And that's okay. Just think where the bone hits the muscle or where it feels a little bit like you're sitting at the base of the spine towards the bum. You're tracing that line not only to create a little bit of awareness back there, but to settle into simple action and just to create a little bit of mobility around the lower lumbar sacral area. Good. And it needs to be slow, and it needs to be thoughtful, and it needs to be purposeful. With all the practices that we do here in Teacher's Practice, it's really about you taking value from the detail, the nuance, and applying that into your personal practice so you can then apply it into your teaching. Make sure you go the other way as well. And again, part of this is exploration. A big part of how we practice here is approaching with curiosity, approaching with why. Why are we doing this? What is the application? What is the value? And making it make sense to you and making it valuable for you. Good. And then go ahead and when you're ready, draw your knees into your chest and then send your legs to the sky. So Nat's going to send her legs all the way up to the sky and just start by just rubbing the backs of the legs, patting the backs of the legs, just starting to wake up the back body. Because as I said at the beginning of the class, at the top of the class, in order for us to have beautiful back bends, we need to wake up the back body, we need to wake up the legs, and we need to make sure we have our foundation underneath us to create that space for expansion. Good. And then go ahead when you're ready and just send your legs back to the floor, knees bent, feet on the floor. And then what we'll do is simply on your inhale, lift your hips into a bridge, but not a full bridge, but what feels like a baby bridge, so maybe halfway up, and then come on down as you exhale. And just keep rising in that aspect and almost feeling as if you're literally peeling the tailbone up and down. So you're putting the vertebrae down one at a time. Now, what you'll notice as you start to create this action is a rising feeling that comes through the chest, the center space. And yeah, it can have an aspect of a back bend or an elevated lift of the thoracic. But what we're really doing is just starting to pay attention, drop in, and lock into our own choices of how we're moving. Choose love, choose your choice wisely, practice purposefully. Good. Add the hands in, please. Inhale, hands go over the head. We do this a lot in practice, so it should be a familiar aspect of movement. And what this is doing is just allowing you to have your own stability underneath you and start to link your movements as you breathe. Now, you do need to breathe, and it will help with your control. It will slow you down, and it will make things happen on purpose. And that's what I really love about these types of practices. These days, I don't tend to teach really fast practices, but I do like the fact that things can have a sense of flow by doing things in a purposeful sequence. Hence the way in which we approach these practices. Next time you're up, stay up, but keep breathing. And just see how that feels. Lengthen the tailbone away. Press the feet down. Now walk your feet a little bit closer towards you. So I want the feet under the ankles. And just find that spaciousness that comes across the front. And take a big breath in. And then come on down. Draw your knees into your chest, please. One more time as you come back. And then take a big breath in here. And a long breath out. Wonderful. Okay, peel yourself over and come into tabletop position, please. And just start to take some shoulder rolls over the wrists. So hands go down and just start to warm the shoulders. You know, even when we do a practice called beautiful back bends and we focus on that aspect of back bending, we don't want to negate the need for a general attention or a general warm-up to put the body in its best position for action. So circling the shoulders, cats and cows, these types of things are really valuable to ensure that we have the awareness, the mobility, the attention into our own body for action. It's a bit like just doing your own kind of like pre-flight boarding to make sure you have all the things that you need for the journey that you're going to go on. And that can be a really nice way to look at it. And so when we think about the principles of backbending, what we need to ensure is that the first thing is the back is doing the back bending, which means we always want to start by warming up the back body. And we want to make sure that we have strong grounding support, stability in our foundations, whether it's legs if we're doing lunging, whether it's thighs if we're doing something like a camel. But we want to have that steady foundation, and we have to have a built suspension into the body. And so things like this, where we're warming up the wrist, warming through the shoulders, that's building that ability to press through the floor and create suspension through the body that can take the absorption of movement in the spine. Good. So now for a moment, and you at home can do this as well. Can you come into cat pose? So you're going to round through the upper rib cage. So you have this full protraction motion. And then I'd like you to come onto the fingertips, please. So you're a higher aspect of fingertips, which means the action here becomes more stable, or means less stable, but more countable. Now turn this into cow pose for me, please. And as you breathe forward, you're on the fingertips and pause, wide collarbones. So yes, this is a back bend. And I want you to really feel this movement of the shoulder blades drawing down the back, that scapular depression. Inhale, cat pose. Breathe in. Stay on the exhale, breathe out. Push through the fingertips, inhale, cow pose. Scapula moves down the back, heart opens. Exhale, cat pose, good. One more time, inhale through cow pose. Nothing fancy, simple actions. And then tuck your toes, come back to downward facing dog. Good. As you arrive into your first downward facing dog, set yourself up for success by maybe starting with a little bit of movement and then landing in stillness. Check in. It's early in the practice for you, depending on whatever time of day you're doing. It usually makes no difference, a huge difference. You still need to approach gently. So heels can be lifted, knees can bend. You know this. But come through plank pose, please. Knees go down, come all the way to the floor, please. And then release to the floor. Pause, keep your hands in. So when we talked about back bend, one of the best things that we want to do is start to light up the back line of the body, right? Your rhomboid actions, the multifidus down the spine. We want to feel this action do the working. So first things I want you to do is I want you to hug your arm bones into your rib cage and then take your hands just a millimeter off the floor, almost as if they're floating but still hugging in. That's straight away going to create retraction in the shoulder blades. It's going to light up the back body. And all I'd like to do from here is you're going to start to create the feeling or the shape of a cobra. So forehead lifts and lengthens forward, tops of the feet press down, no hands, pause here. Not even high at all, like 50% of where you usually go. This is going to ask the back body to do the work. Shoulder blades draw down the back, breathe in, and then release. Right? What's interesting about this, especially with things like a cobra pose, is too often we use our hands to push the pose or pull the pose. Right? We always talk about, oh, well, cobra pose, up dog is a pull pose. Actually, the reality is, yes, up dog is a pull pose, but a cobra is not necessarily a pull pose. It's a back engagement rhomboid effort pose that has shoulder blades drawing down the back. So come on up from the back body. First, the hands lift, arm bones squeeze in, and then you rise up. And you really feel this in only 50%. And literally, I've got two fingers here poking the back of Nat's rhomboid. They're switched on. This action is working. But to keep it lovely, keep it beautiful, I do need the tops of the feet pressing down. I do need the pelvis lengthening away. And we want to think the back bend is here, the lower lumbar. The higher we go, the more it compresses. So we stay low and we create separation. Good. Release, come down to the floor. One more time. Inhale, float that up and find that same thing on your own. You got this. Not so high, a little bit lower now. Tuck your chin ever so slightly so the back of the neck is in line. Good. Take a big breath in. And then exhale, release. Beautiful. Push back to tabletop. Right? So from this action and from this movement, what we're looking to do is to create the ability to do these actions independently, as opposed to just my hands go down, I lift up through cobra pose. And that's where we need to start separating our pose names from the actions or the purpose of the pose. Good. So let's take a big breath in here. Go back to downward facing dog. All right. So let's put these things together. Inhale, come through plank pose. Breathe in. Knees down, chaturanga. Come all the way to the floor. Straight away, lift your palms off a millimeter or centimeter. Inhale, cobra, no hands. Good. Exhale, forehead down, push back, tabletop. Take a cow pose because I want to back bend. Downward facing dog. So this is a modified version of what you might consider a chaturanga. Let's do that again. I want plank pose, please. Knees down, chaturanga. Let's go. Inhale. Knees down, chaturanga. No hands, cobra pose. Yeah. Tabletop is your exhale. Cow pose, inhale. Down dog, exhale. And so what this is doing is it's focusing on the beautiful back bend, the choice to be subtle in that effort. Do that again. So you're going to do this 2 more times on your own as I talk 2 more. So as you start to roll and you find that chaturanga shape, yes, it's tempting to keep your knees up because you can, but we're not doing because you can today. We're doing this because we're learning something maybe slightly different in our perspective. And I want you to feel that the effort is coming from the back body. We put the cow because it mimics that movement. And we go back to down dog. You keep it going and start to feel, go slower, go more purposeful, and really make the back body switch on. Good, Nat's got that going here. She's squeezing the arm bones in. And as she's releasing first, we're going to do that 1 more time just so we can clean this up. Cow pose, widen the collarbones, back bend, downward facing dog. What I don't want you to forget is after the cobra pose, you have to bring your forehead back to the floor. I need a reset. Come through plank, everyone, 1 more time. Breathe in. I'll do it here with Nat. Knees down, chaturanga. Good. Hands glide up. Inhale. Forehead back to the floor, neutral spine. Good. Now tabletop. Breathe in. Excellent. You've got a cow pose and then a downward facing dog. Wonderful. Big breath in. Long breath out. Great. Wonderful. Knees down, please, child's pose. Now, not child's pose to rest, because child's pose, we're going somewhere else with it. And what I find really interesting about starting to do subtle, detailed work with backbending is what you're actually doing is forcing yourself to slow down and forcing yourself to put movement in upper thoracic. Notice your exact actions as opposed to just doing what you always do. So what I'd like you to do in this shape of a child's pose is I want you to do a version of cat-cow in child's pose. So what that's going to look and feel like is with your hands, you're going to take your hands and grab the outside edges of the mat. So you literally have something to hold on to. Now, as you do that, you're going to almost slide and move them away so you kind of feel this traction of the arm line. So Nat's arms are switched on and your arms are switched on and they're grippy. We know this trick as a helpful way to stop a slippy mat. Obviously, we got good light for them, so we're not slipping around. But if you're on a mat that's super slippy, you can always do a down dog grabbing something like this. So now your head's going to slightly lift up off the floor, and you might need to walk your hands further. But I want you to think, hips stay back to your heels, and I want cat-cow in the upper spine. It's not going to be as big as your normal cat-cow, but I want you to start to feel as you inhale and exhale, you're still continuously pushing the mat away. Why? Why are we doing this? What value does that offer? Well, it's offering thoracic movement. It's offering a subtle opening and closing. We're putting a back bend into the body through the cow pose variation, and we're then returning it back in the cat pose variation. So try not to do it from your chin. Try to do it from your upper thoracic and really find that opening through the cow variation and then rounding through the cat variation. Keep your head down though, please. So it's not lifting up of the head. Don't worry about the head. I just want to off the floor, but I want the spine to work. That's as high as the head needs to go. Good. So I want you to think, inhale, lengthen the hands forward, widen the collarbones, and then exhale. Good. Round upper spine, upper spine, upper spine. Yes. And it's a subtle thing. A lot of these things that we do in these practices are subtle things you need to feel to figure out. And when you figure it out, then it feels a certain kind of way, and that's what we're going for, is to feel a certain kind of way with these things. Wonderful. Now let's try this. Keep your hands gripping the mat. Next time you come through the cow variation, you'll tuck your toes, keep gripping the mat, go back to downward facing dog. Keep your hands gripping the mat. And you'll just notice. And again, I just want to do this version so you can see what that feels like if you've not done this before. And again, it's a nice variation if you're dealing with with wrist stuff, if you're dealing with slippery mat stuff, or you're needing a little bit of a wider grip of the hands if you're dealing with wide shoulders or muscular shoulders, or anything going on shoulder-wise where parallel elevation can feel a bit much. So this gives you that aspect of a little bit wider and a little bit more externally rotated, broadening across the back body, just as a side note. Take a big breath in here, long breath out, and then bend your knees, walk yourself to the top of the mat. Good. Take a halfway lift as you rise, breathe everything in, and then bow forward as you exhale. Good. Chair pose, Utkatasana. So as you come up to chair pose, I want you to find, perhaps let's call it your basic chair or your preferred chair. And we'll talk about this for just a moment. And of course, for a lot of people, it's like, what is the position of a chair pose? And the reality is there's different strokes for different folks. There's different ways that you can do a chair pose depending on what's needed. For me, I start from the ground up foundationally, heels down, thighs wrapping. I prefer a long tailbone respecting the natural curve of the spine. I know some people like a long razored tailbone if you've kind of done a little bit more like an old school Iyengar, so razor the tailbone, lift the hip points. I like to think natural curve of the spine that respects the natural curve of the tailbone, which feels like it's lengthening down, but not sticking up like a duck and not tucking under like a tail. It has that natural curve. And so what I also want you to feel is I want width across the back body, but I also want lift across the thoracic. So yeah, external rotation here, but I want you to intentionally focus on widening. Nat, can you turn forward for me? So I want you to feel like you're widening here across the collarbones. You can do this action of just widening across the collarbone, and that feeling alone, right, of spreading the collarbone and almost feeling like the traps and the shoulder blades are moving behind you can give you a nice kind of position for your chair. Now been here a while. It's not the most fun place to be, but just want to talk through that for a moment. Take a big breath in, bow forward as you exhale. Good. Now you can face back your normal way. Take a halfway lift, everyone, and then step back plank pose. From plank pose, take our new version of chaturanga today, knees down, lower to the floor. Let's see if you remember or Nat remembers. We're going to go floating cobra, breathing in. Forehead to the floor, breathing out. Pressing back up through a tabletop. Good. Pause. Good. Coming through cow pose, breathing in. Downward facing dog. Well done. Super. All right. Now we're here and ready to rise. Lift your right leg to the sky, please. And start by coming low lunge. Hands stay on the fingertips or on blocks, left knee on the floor, untuck the left toes, and reach your hands straight up towards the sky. Standard low lunge shape. And so when we start to think, what is the necessary need of a back bend? We have this lengthening external action. And for a lot of times, yes, the spine is lengthening and there's a back bend happening purely because the pelvis is starting to spiral, but we don't want an extreme action, right? What I do want to do is I want to have stability. So, you know, what a lot of us have done before, you do this action of lifting the heart, and we'll do that in a second, but I want the lower body to be in place. So I want a lower body stable point. So for today, what we're going to do, we're going to do a blocked version of it. If you have a block, and maybe you do have one nearby, I want the block to go here on the inner thigh. I want you to press against that block, please. Good. See how that moves the posture forward? If you need to wiggle the right foot forward, you can. If you're happy with where you are, wonderful. But I want that feeling of a grounding presence behind you. And actually, let's switch it up. Let's tuck the back left toes, please. Wonderful. And this is going to make Nat's stability and your stability have to prioritize forward engagement, lower lumbar, grounding action. And so before we do any back bending, I just want you to feel like you're lengthening up and away and out of your pelvis. Now, because you have to keep the block, let go for a little bit. There, let's put the block in there. Because you have to keep the block, you can't lift your hips. So I just want you to think that feeling of axial extension, that lengthening action that comes from just putting a block in, so a stable point of reference that you then have to lift away from. Good. Now take a big breath in here, and I want your elbows to come down like W shapes, like we normally would do, Skydriver arms, and just do that a few times so you have that action. Inhale, hands go up. Exhale, the hands come down. Good. One more time. Breathe in. Exhale, the elbows come down. Pause. So now we have our stable foundation, and these elbows are retracting shoulder blades, so switching back on, rhomboids, moving thoracic. And I want you to think, I don't want you to think open. I don't want you to think lean back. Here's a nice metaphor. I want you to almost think like you're hooking the center of your chest to your forehead. So you're lifting it up to the top of your head. And what that does, and Nat's doing that really nicely, is that she's lifting it forward, widening across the collarbones, but she's lifting out of the pelvis, out of lower lumbar, right? It's very easy just to go back, right? Back is not beautiful. Up and open is beautiful. And what you'll see is it's less extreme. It's less grand. There's no flopping head. There's no collapsing lower back, but there's still a back bend going on. Good. Now from this shape, even more, we find that lift on the spine and widening through the collarbones. And now it's almost like, like the high jump at the Olympics. You want to feel like you're lifting and rising over a bar behind you. Good. And that's where we need to be for this first round of it. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, come back to neutral. Change nothing else. Reach your hands back up to the sky. And then reach forward like a diagonal lunge. Pause. Good. Now from here, what you're going to start to notice is the spine is going back neutral. And neutral means that we're coming back into control. I don't want to round it and collapse it. I just want you to get your neutrality. So as you lift this back left knee, the block will drop and it becomes an extended long diagonal lunge. Good. Pull that right hip in so you're not unsteady. And all you're really doing now is creating the stability in the body to purposely action or lengthen out of it. Take a big breath in, please. Hands cartwheel to the floor, step back, downward facing dog. And what you start to notice in these subtle, nuanced, more detailed, perhaps longer holds, is that you're starting to be able to pattern the opening of action before we do anything too big or too much. Let's try the left side, please. Inhale, left leg to the sky. We'll take a low lunge, knee goes down, toes stay tucked on this side. We'll go straight there. And that's going to put her own block in so she can see what that feels like. You put your own block in so you feel what that feels like. And what that's doing is allowing you to make sure you understand the usage of your own props and tools as you work through these practices. Good. Hands will go up. So first things first is set your foundation. It's so easy to quickly think, okay, elbows down, heart open, elbows down, heart open, elbows down, heart open. What I do want you to first do is say, are my foundations set? Do I have a stable point from the pelvis to expand out of, to grow out of? Because extension, I like to think axial extension before back bend extension is going to be really healthy for the spine and really valuable for your practice. Okay, take a big breath in, and then we'll do a few rounds of straight spine, elbows down. Good. Keep it going. And by slowing things down, if you're new to practicing with me, slowing things down are going to give you more awareness to what you're doing, more accountability as well. And sometimes it makes it a stronger practice. It makes it more focused practice, but it means that there's no hiding from your insights and no hiding from just whizzing through what you want to do posturally and just focus on the actions as opposed to the outlines. Good. Elbows drop down, pause there. Okay, now you have your foundation. We will have an extension, so the crown of the head is lengthening, and then you start to feel that high jump feeling, and the collarbones widen, you hook the heart to the top of the head, and you feel this action of lift. And what I love about this variation is this block is making you do the lifting work, and by lengthening you below, so it's grounding you below so you have that stableness. Let's take a big breath in. Exhale, come through neutral. Reach your hands to the sky, breathe in. Diagonal lunge, lean forward, keep the block for one last moment. Good. Once the spine comes back neutral and we have a happy, happy feeling in that back body, now you can drop the block, lift the knee, diagonal lunge. And from this shape, as you set yourself up for steadiness, you take a big breath in, downward facing dog. Well done. You can put your your blocks back to the side, and I can put her blocks back to the side. And you just want to make sure that they're always there in a place that you need them. Right. So actually, I'm going to put them at the top of the mat. So we have blocks ready to roll. That's just me. I'm very stickler about block management because if you have your blocks where they need to be, you always know how to get them when you need them. Big breath in, long breath out. Bend your knees, look forward, walk or step yourself top of the mat. Let's try this same idea in a different pose. Take a halfway lift, please. Bow forward as you exhale. Chair pose, Utkatasana. So same idea. We're literally going to do the similar work here, but now because you're in chair pose, you've already starting with a little bit of an element of a back bend. And now I want you to think now when we do this high jump like shape, as the elbows come down, you have this ability now to do two things. The top half of the body is doing the same back bending, that thoracic opening. You're choosing that width across the back body. But what I really want you to do is I need you to anchor your hips down in a strong chair so you have a stable point below. So to help you do that, and Matt's going to do this with as well, we're going to bring our hips down maybe 2 or 3 more centimeters. Knees can go forward, hips can go down. So you're really in what you might call like a baby chair, or kind of a low chair. Take a big breath in, and then the elbows go down, the heart's gonna lift, and you'll take that thoracic back bend. Good. Keep going and keep doing that 3 or 4 or 5 times. And I don't want to see big back bends. I want you to almost feel like the thoracic is lifting to the crown of the head, and you're creating that lift. But at the same time, I want you to think, am I anchored below me? Am I keeping length underneath the back bend? Am I staying out of lumbar, right? Am I staying out of lumbar? Because we have that space. We have that mobility in the upper spine. We have that ability to create space. That's why we choose love. We choose the space where the back bend can happen. That makes them more beautiful than just big ones. And one more time up, breathe in, and then bow forward, exhale. Well done, everyone. Take a halfway lift, step back, plank pose, downward facing dog. And I know the default for a lot of us can go, okay, well, we're going to cycle through a vinyasa or a chaturanga. That's totally fine. You can add one if you need. But at the same time, I tend to say these days, if you don't need it, don't do it. Don't just do autopilot because it's there. And sometimes by doing extra chaturangas, you're almost kind of using up some of your energy or using up some of your focus and putting a little bit more muscular strain in the body that might not be needed, so we can have that juice for later on in the practice. Good, take a big breath in, long breath out. Okay, let's see how this links together. Lift your right leg to the sky, please. Breathe in and step straight to crescent lunge. Double bend the knees, rise through the fingertips, take a full inhale in, and then take our back bend here. Exhale, elbows down, breathe out. And again, it looks straightforward and simple. Breathe in, lean forward, diagonal lunge, neutral. Good. Come back up, crescent lunge, neutral spine, back bend, elbows down. Beautiful back bends, subtle integration. Same thing, inhale, rise, neutral, long lunge. One more time through. Inhale, rise. Exhale, elbows bend, heart lifts to the crown of the head. Inhale, rise. Reach your hands forward, come to the floor, step back, downward facing dog. And straight away from here, I'd like you to leave your toes tucked, but come into a floating upward facing dog. Heart goes forward, hips will lower, and pause here for a moment. Now again, this could be a new version of up dog for you, but what I like to do with this in a backbending practice, it gives you the opportunity to choose integrity. Now the toes are tucked for the reason protecting the lower spine. So I still need you to get your tailbone away. I still need you to lift up out of it, activate your rhomboids, push down and pull through the hands, widen the collarbones so you have the back bend of space, and then go back to tabletop or down dog. Yep. And then reach at the back. A little movement like that can almost show you the control that you have. And I think a practice like this is about showing yourself you understand and showing yourself you can integrate. And when you do those pieces, that actually really allows you to be in control and making the choices that protect the spine. Let's do the second side, please. Inhale, left leg. Step straight to crescent lunge. And that's going to keep going in this flow, and you can keep going as you listen up. So you'll breathe in. Exhale, drop the elbows, lift the heart. Neutral reach through crescent. Neutral reach through long diagonal lunge. Good, not too low. Inhale, hands go up. Exhale, elbows come down. Do that 2 or 3 more times. And what's really nice about this is the slower the movement, the simpler movement, if you revisit the patterns we've done before, it means you can start to focus on the technique work, focus on the thing we're focusing on. If you want just a general flow, go to a general flow class. If you just want to move the body or feel kind of a flowy action, do that and do one of the flow classes here or do a flow class at your studio or wherever else you practice. These teacher practices is to bring nuance, bring insight, bring detail and technique into your personal practice so there's learning and application. Get after your last round of this. Wherever you are, you're going to meet us in downward facing dog. Good, Nat's going to finish her round. You can finish your round. If you're already in downward facing dog, take a breath, settle, and take a moment there. You guys are doing a great job. Come straight through the upward facing dog on your toes. See what that feels like. Focus on the back bend. Focus on the back bend. Shoulders draw down the back. Keep space in the lower lumbar. That's what we're looking for, space in the lower lumbar. And then downward facing dog. Wonderful. Big breath in. Long breath out. Bend your knees, look forward, walk to the top of the mat. Do the same thing what we did in the chair pose. Halfway lift, please. Bow forward as you exhale. Chair pose, Utkatasana. From the chair pose, you rise up. Exhale, elbows go down. And again, all we're doing, breathing in, hands go up. And you're going to do this 3 more times. And I just want you to focus on, can I widen the collarbones? Can I draw my sternum towards the crown of my head? Can I create the movement, the back bend in the thoracic? Because yeah, you can always just throw your hands up and down. That's easy enough as it is. Only you know if the work is being done and we're applying what we're doing in this practice here. After that last round, take a forward fold. Wonderful. Stay here downstairs and just give your head a little spin and a little shake. Give your spine a little bit of freedom. And just allow yourself the space to kind of feel. All right, then unroll to standing. Now it's going to face forward. You can face whichever way you'd like to face. And just take a moment to kind of reset and make sure everything's still attached. Circle the hips, move the spine. For me, it's important. It's not just blowing through poses to the next thing. It's not just this sequence into that sequence. You give yourself a moment to reset. If this was a meal, give yourself a moment to digest. Give yourself a moment to kind of, just kind of get back to square one, empty the plate so you can kind of be ready to try things again. Good. So now I'd like to start to build a back bend from standing, which will end up in a version of similar work we've already done. And so to do that, that's going to help me here, and you can do this yourself, but we're simply going to start by bringing our hands to our hips at the back. What do you do to the side, if that's all right? Yeah. And your hands on the hips, and then you're going to draw your elbows in like they're doing that back body cobra work. And so it's almost this feeling in that, you can have a look at me here, is you want your hand, thumbs in and fingers out. And so you almost like grabbing the saddle of your own hips, and that's going to allow the shoulder blades to draw in. Now it has a really nice spaciousness through engagement. And what you want to feel is if you kind of could see Nat's back from your angle, you could see the rhomboids engaging and drawing together. Now this same work that we've done the whole practice, I want you to start to feel the lift of the sternum bone reach into the crown of the head. So it's almost like you're doing your own little back bend here. Good. And from that action of this little back bend, to start to create the lift on it, we still need to kind of allow things to widen and open. Now, if I just said keep going, lengthen back or lift up, it's going to end up in the lower spine. It's going to end up you trying to crunch down, because by going back, you're going to crunch down. Does that make sense? You kind of this way. So you do need to create the space, which means you actually need to lower the position to lift the height. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to first lower the seat into chair pose. Good. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to lift your heels. So I just want the heels on a block. Put your heels on a block. And what that's done is, why have I put the heels on the block? Pelvis turned forward, create a little bit of space back there, and reset the position of grounding so there's still stability. And I want you to drop your seat 2 or 3 more centimeters, please. Good. Now I want to lift the chest up and away from it. And then what you start to do is, what you start to see is you start to have this push-pull balance that's available here. Drop your seat even more. Good. Shoulder blades draw together. Lift here. Sternum bone to crown of the head. Drop your seat even more. Drop your seat even more. Drop your seat even more. Lift your sternum bone up. It's almost like your heart's lifting and holding you afloat and resisting out of that sinking action. Take a big breath in. Long breath out. If you have a friend like me here helping you out, stand all the way up and relax for a second. Good. Because the work is hard and the effort is there, but what we're doing is, what we're trying to do and hopefully exploring is, back bends are all happening up here. It's all happening across collarbones. It's not happening down here. Let's try this one more time. You can do it at the level or depth that works for you. I am far more interested in you getting your head and around the technique and get your body into the feeling of the technique than going low just to open up. All right, go ahead and sink your seat into a version of a chair pose. What I do want is arm bones active. Good. That means rhomboids are engaged. And feel as if the seat is going down, so you're lengthening the lumbar away and then opening up. Nat's doing her homework, And as you can see, if I come from this angle here, you can see that length and opening. And you can see she's really trying to grow out of the pelvis. She's really trying to grow out of the spine. Good. Sit the sit a little bit more. Nat's working hard. Breathe, Nat, breathe. You guys breathe at home. Take a big breath in. Long exhale. Stand up. Relax for a second. Pause. Good. Come off the block. Go ahead and pick up the block for me. And just for a moment, just allow yourself to kind of reset. Close your eyes. And this has nothing to do with the backbending work, but sometimes just a little bit of proprioceptive touch kind of recenter. So just take the block and just kind of put it over the sternum and you just kind of press it into yourself a little bit. Drop the elbow down so you're still neutral. But what's nice about that, it's kind of just like a little recentering. Or it's a little bit like, you know, the block that just created misery. You can kind of have a little bit of a conversation with it right now and say, why did you do that to me? Whichever way you want to look at that. Good. All right, come on back, open your eyes up. How we doing? We all okay? So these backbending actions of what we're looking at, as we start to understand that principle, now we'll start to apply as we put it into quote unquote backbends that maybe require more detail, require you to hold more weight, and we're working towards things on the floor with the backbends actions that we're doing. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to come to the floor and sit on your lap. Now you can face forward with it. Legs together, knees forward, toes back. And as you do that, all you're simply going to do is I'd like you to take the brick and place it in between your thighs. And just squeeze for a second. So it's almost like squeeze it in, let it go. So you just have that feeling of engagement. What does that do, that squeezing and internal squeezing, internal rotation squeezing the block? What does that actually do for the back body? Any guesses? Where does that create space? Well, oftentimes when you draw the block in or you create this line of adduction with internal rotation, you'll feel that the sacrum or the saddle of the pelvis behind you is going to spread. It's going to create a little bit of width behind you. Do you feel that? And as you squeeze that in, it's going to create space behind you, which means we're alleviating compression in the SI joint, activating the way in which the legs and the thighs and the hamstrings and the muscles of the legs are actively creating support. And that allows us the spaciousness to grow from it. So try this just so you can feel a difference. Come up onto your knees as if you were prepping for camel. You can tuck your toes because it might give you a little bit more support. And again, depending on the width of your hips, the width of your block, you might need to go narrow block or you might want to go wider block. Totally up to you. And so I want you to do the same thing. Don't worry about your hands for a moment. Squeeze the block in and back. When I say in and back, right, we're squeezing in with induction, with adduction, and internal rotation. So it's that feeling if I was to try pull the block out from behind you, you'd still be able to grip and hold on to it. But as you do that, squeeze the block and move it behind you, you should feel the width across the back body. Do you feel that? Good. Okay, so now what we're going to do from this shape, and actually, Nat, can I ask you to turn to your left sideways fully so we can see your side body? And that will help everyone who's watching us through the screen. And I'd like your hands to go back to the hips, arm bones together like we've been doing all practice. And so again, that was like saying interrotation. If I was to try to steal Nat's block, she's going to resist that, which means she's squeezing it and wrapping it inward, which is going to spread the sacral line. And in many ways, what I want Nat to do with her hands, I also want her to anchor her hips. So her hands are not on the hips just for the sass of it. She's actually squeezing her hips in and creating a lengthening action behind it. So it's, when I say lengthening, posterior lengthening action, anterior lifting. So it's that aspect of spiraling the hips down. And by doing that and squeezing the block, she's set herself up for success by having structure underneath the back bend that's going to create a lifting action. Does that make sense? So with this, before we do any back bend, and this is one of the things that I love to do in a practice, is I like to do straight spine back bending, which in theory makes no sense, but it'll make sense when we do it here. So straight spine back bending means that's in a straight spine, and I just want the whole body to come back 10 degrees. Good pause. So thighs are active. Good. And then you come back up through the middle. Come back 10 degrees again. So what this is, pause here, and what that means is legs are still wrapping. She's still lengthening her pelvis away, and she's still lengthening her spine straight. She's not even back bending yet. Good, come back up through the middle. Right? And so by doing this straight spine back bending, you're saying or telling yourself, do I have the structure necessary to support a back bend that grows out of it? Okay, now here's what I want you to try. Come back 10% or maybe 15%, totally fine. So everything's moved back. Now, what I want you to feel is these two pieces that work together. First things first, I want sternum bone to crown of the head, right? Slight movement. And then I want you to keep that and move your hips to the front wall. Good, keep that. So now you can see we have this blueprint of a camel that's coming into the shape. Good, return back to neutral. And by doing it this way, what I'm doing is I'm going straight spine back bend into a lift, into an opening. But this time, and Nat does this really well, and I'd like you to try this. I'd like you to try do those two things at the same time. So sternum bone to crown of the head as the hips move forward. So Nat's going to come back 15%, 10 to 15%. Oh, come back straight spine, please. Straight spine back bend. So come back 10 to 15%. Great. Now at the same time, expand. So you can see that beautifully here. Sternum bone rises to crown as hip moves forward. Sustain. Arm bones are working. Hands are still spiraling pelvis down. Block is still working. She's working even though if I took a picture, it doesn't look like she's doing much. Come back to neutral. And what's interesting about that when you do this kind of work is it doesn't look big. It doesn't look amazing. It doesn't look dramatic. It just is work doing work the right way. So let's explore what this feels like now. And actually, let's try this way for you, Nat. Turn your block wider, just so you have a little bit more base underneath you. Tuck your toes. Good, and that's just going to give a little bit of a wider base for Nat, and maybe that works for you. All right, set yourself up. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to come back 30% of the way down. Straight spine back bend, so no bending, no bending, no bending a minute. Now, quads are firing up. She's working hard. She is breathing. Now, she knows these two actions. She's got sternum to the crown of the head, hips moving forward. Here we go. Good. Now, as you do that, I want the hips to keep going forward, and I want you to keep taking the spine, the sternum forward. As you can see, we're not trying to go extreme. We're staying here, but for now, I want hips further forward. So I want the center of your gravity going further forward. Yes. Keep spiraling your pelvis away. Keep lifting from the back of the heart. Back of the neck is in line with the spine. Come back to neutral. Good. And the reason that for me, I come back to neutral before putting your head on the floor just because I don't want you to go back to front. Not that it's not okay. It's just it's a long way to go. And sometimes just coming back to neutral. Come back to neutral, release your hands, give them a little wiggle, let your spine go left to right. It's a bit like it's just, for me, it's taking out a little bit of extra work that's not needed when we're about to do the same thing again. Okay, so now if you were thinking about, okay, well, the next step for you is to move down into camel where your hands go to your ankles. Totally fine. Nat's going to try that variation with it as well. But at the same time, I'm going to slow you right down. I'm going to ask you to do it a specific way. The one thing I'm going to ask you not to do is corkscrew the spine to camel pose. Do you know what I mean? Corkscrew the spine to camel pose. So Nat, come up to your starting position, tuck your toes, put the block in just for the sake of what we're working on today. And when I say corkscrew the spine into camel pose, that's like when you're putting your hands on your hips or starting or leaving your hands down and you kind of twist the spine left to right to get your hands back to your ankles. So if Nat was to release her hands and reach for her ankles one at a time, so she does this, and then for a lot of people they do this, and then you catch your ankles, and that's kind of the corkscrew action of the spine. Come on back up. Again, it's not wrong, and I'm never going to say anything's wrong. I'm going to say it's not right for me, and it doesn't work in the way I teach. I'd much rather you have symmetry when you're symmetrical transitions for symmetrical poses, because that means you maintain control and you don't have disengagement, and you also don't need any lower lumbar compression through a corkscrew on the left or right side, unless you need it. If you're fully engaged and do that by grounding, wrapping, lengthening the hips forward, lengthening out as you corkscrew the spine back. I'm sure some of you can do that safely. It looks like Nat can do that relatively safely. But the thing is that the purpose? Is there more value doing it a different way? Hence why we're going to do it symmetrically. So here's how we do that. Nat's going to start in a neutral spine. And she's going to start with her hands by her sides this time, not touching the body, but reaching the fingers straight down to the floor. So we've done the whole thing, no bend, back bend. And she's going to come back 10, let's go 30% today. Good, pause. No spine, no bend, back bend. And this is where I want you to start with this. Now, I want you to change nothing. Don't back bend. I just want you to move your hands back as if you were reaching for your heels. Pause. This is the first action. Now, if you think shoulders still have to draw together, the arm bones still have to draw together, I want you to keep moving your hands back to the range as far as they go that work for you. Pause. There. This is miserable. And I say miserable in a good way because the effort required to sustain means the legs have to work. Tailbone has to spiral down. You have to sustain your spine and you have back movement of the arms. Come back to neutral. Rest for a second. All right. This kind of work is preparing the back, preparing the sacrum, preparing the pelvis, preparing the quads for that movement. Okay, now watch this or try this. Same thing, that come 30% for me, please. Or maybe even 45%, whatever you feel structured with. Good, now from here, arms move back. Now, arms still are moving in, and you might touch the heels, but don't grab them yet, because the moment you grab them, you're going to disengage and put weight on them. Now, our two-part back bend. Give me thoracic lift and pelvis forward. Good. Now you can grab the heels. Whoa. See how not corkscrewed because it was easier access? Come on back up. If you can't grab at the same time, I need you to slow it down, start over, or try a different approach. Okay, come on back now. Good. Open the back bend. Good. There. And it's, if I said just do any camel her own way, she wouldn't necessarily do it this way because it's a harder path of entrance, but it takes more work. Neck is strong and it's long into the back. Legs are still squeezing the pelvis. Pelvis is still drawing forward. I can see her shaking because of the work required, but I also want you to try this last bit, Nat, if that's okay. Just float your hands off to the sides of your feet so she still has her strength. Good, come on back up. That means that she's not relying, you can sit back, you can even put your forehead down, and that's totally fine. That means she's not relying on her hands to do the back bending work. Does that make sense? This goes the same thing when we talk about cobra. You're not relying on your hands to do the work that your back and your legs should be doing. A beautiful back bend means a back bend is doing the work, not your arms propping you up, right? It's like scaffolding on a house. Say if you see a house getting renovated and it's got all that cladding around the sides, that's not the whole point of it. It's there to kind of keep the structure together, but at the same time, that's not the end goal. Let's do this one more time. All right. Start with a no back bend, back bend. And you come back to the variation of 45 degrees, pause, move your hands back, pause. Now find the back bend. Good, now. And then maybe find the connection point. What's nice about this is you start to see, you can already see here, the hips are drawing them forward. If Nat was sitting against the wall, the hips would be touching a wall. The heart is lifting to the crown of the head. But yes, Nat's going to try. If she wanted to hover her hands, she could still hover her hands and sustain because everything is switched on. Inhale, bring yourself back up. And then rest for a second. Does that make sense? Because you're doing a great job. I want to show you one or two more variations here while we're working with camel and the back bend. And then you can kind of see how these pieces work together. All right, so to give you a different variation, so you can see this on Nat, and I'm actually going to ask Nat to turn around this way. Same thing, but she's going to face the other way so you can see a different version. Is you're going to take your two blocks and you're going to make a little wall at the top of your mat where your knees are going to go on the block, which means we're going to change the angle of your entrance. Come on up. Let's see how it goes on this first version of it. Again, if your knees are a bit bumpy, you can always put a blanket on top or something extra. And again, if you have a third block, you can also put the block in, but we don't have a third block here, so we're just going to still do the action without the block. Okay, so what you're going to notice already for Nat, she's sitting higher. And what that tends to mean as well is that the angle of the knee joint is more open. It's going to give her more range to move back if she wanted to. That's quite strong in her practice, but also very capable in her practice. So that range might benefit her investigation of a posture. It doesn't mean deeper. It means she could investigate can she still sustain? So do the exact same thing, all the same things, no bend, back bend. She's going to take herself 45 degrees, right? Take your arms and keep taking your arms further back. So don't worry about your heels for a moment. Take your arms as far back. Good. And what you're going to notice is almost the center of gravity shifts. Now give me the back bend. Yes. And then almost just use a fingertips just to kind of hold yourself afloat. Now what you're going to notice is that it's far more accountable. Keep pushing your hips forward. Yes. Keep holding the heart up, but see how spacious this back bend feels. This is the whole point of what we're doing. You can even press the tongue to the roof of your mouth, Jalandhara Bandha, which can be helpful. Take a big breath in and then release. Neutral or closed, sit back under your heels. How you guys doing at home? Now you okay? Yeah. Okay. And so part of this is we explore different ways, right? And one thing we'll try here, and Nat will try as an option, and you can try if you want, is the difference of tucked toes versus untucked toes in camel pose. Tucked toes is generally a little bit easier because the heels are higher, so there's not as far to go. It also means you have the ability to grip the floor a bit more because pressing through the balls of your feet and having your toes gripping can be a little bit more stable. Tops of the feet, when you get them underneath you, you have less control, but it also means the pose can potentially have a little bit more depth to it. And we're going to see what that feels like here in our class in the room here. And if you want to try, you're welcome to as well. All right, so now we're going to come back on the blocks, but we're not going to tuck the toes. And we're going to see if that's okay in your shape for you. Are you okay there? Okay. All right, no back bend, please. Now, what's really important here is that the tops of the feet stay pressing down. And the tendency is the ankles are going to want to roll. And I want you to really move the arm bones back, further than you even think they need to go. Pause, and the back bend is there, but you really have to move the hips forward, and the tops of the feet have to press down. Good. Pause there. Good. Hips are drawing forward, heart is opening. I can see you working hard. I can see Nat working hard. And again, I don't even want you to reach for the heels. I want you to reach the back edge of your mat. Good. Breathe. The one thing that one of my teachers always used to say is don't go further than you need to go. Make sure you can still get out. And a good indicator of that is if you can't breathe with complete control and fullness wherever you are in a pose, you've probably gone too far. And what Nat's done really nice, she's brought herself out and she's come back in. Good. And just doing that a few times on your own, and you might readjust, and Nat might go, actually, toes tucked is better for her. So she might go, I'm going to go toe tucked again, and this feels nicer. And you're absolutely welcome to grab the heels. I don't mind that at all. That makes no difference. What I do mind is if you grab the heels and then give up on the pose, and you just sit on top of yourself. And that's the fundamental nature sometimes when you're stacking or using stable stacking, is you kind of give up on other places because you're just holding yourself there in a stacked position. Try one more time on your own. That's going to have one more play. And if you're done, and you just wait for us and join us and just see how these applications work. This is why I love the no back bend, then grow the back bend from that place of stability. Because when you do a no back bend, it means you have to be switched on to then create the space out of it. Super nice. Wonderful. Everyone is done. They come on up. Sit back into your heels, move the blocks out of the way, and put your forehead on the floor. Super. Probably for this, it's going to be nicer for your hands to either, probably by your ankles is probably the nicest way for the position of the shoulders. And that can be a really nice way to set yourself up. It's a lot of work on the back body because you're putting in the amount of effort. And it's also a lot of work for the quads and the hip flexors because of how much it needs to engage and sustain. Here's a question for you while you're here taking a moment. What's another version of camel pose that does similar work in a different position? And if I took camel pose and did a different version of it, what pose would it be? Well, hopefully you said bridge pose. Because bridge pose effectively has that same blueprint of camel pose. And hence why we even did a bridge pose at the beginning, because I wanted to put that shape into your body without a lot of weight. So when you're ready, come on up into a bridge pose so you can kind of move your legs through. And as you shuffle up into bridge pose and you lie yourself down through constructed rest, just give yourself this space to rise up halfway into a bridge pose, so a baby bridge pose. And what you'll see is this same similar actions of all the work that we've been doing. And walk your heels a little bit further back, Nat. And so that's that same idea. Literally, if I was to take Nat and flip her up, she'd be in camel pose. Or in fact, she'd be in a no back bend. Does that make sense? She'd be in a no back bend. And so that's why starting with a baby bridge or a simple bridge is giving you that ability to kind of repattern the body. So that's why I like bridge poses at the beginning before I do camel poses. I like bridge poses when I'm doing back bending, because the idea of this no back bending before at this baby bridge variation gives us that ability to just have the body feel and have the body understand. You got to come on down and rest. You could literally do the same work if you wanted to really kind of go through that working motion. The block can go back in. And if you were to squeeze the block and wrap the block in and lift the block up, you can feel that. And again, we're not going to elevate you back into a higher heart rate now or do that work more. I just want to show you how this pattern exists in the body. And if Nat was to do her back bend version of her bridge pose, it would be the exact same thing, right? Thoracic lifts to the crown of the head, hips rise, right? And so that version of what feels like a back bend or a beautiful back bend shape can be done very simply with the attention required to feel that opening and that opening across the front body. Good. And release. Let your knees go side to side. That can be a nice movement that just gives you a little bit of space. And I think what's interesting, especially when practices like this, oftentimes when people say back bend, they always think, okay, we're going to end up in wheel pose. We're not doing wheel pose in this practice. And I think sometimes we can actually realize that back bends like camel pose can be just as effortful, have as much technique that are necessary for it. And these types of things, when we start to really zone in or zoom in on some of the componentry needed for practices like this, we can then start to apply it outwards, right? All of this squeeze the block, lengthen tailbone, move hips forward. That's all suspension work, I would call it. Suspension work, right? The same way as you have a suspension bridge, or the same way as you have something that has a little bit of movement to it, right? That suspension work is what's needed to create the necessary torque or strength or length to create, to lift up from it, right? When you see like a big suspension bridge and you have all those things that are dangling down, the suspension rods or cords, that's what they use to pull the bridge up and then tie it off, so therefore it can adapt through movement, it can adapt through weather, it can adapt through action. And so you might not be able to see a suspension bridge doing this or flying around the wind or bumping up and down with traffic, but that's what it's actually doing on the very micro level, on the very detailed level. You have the ability to adapt, right? You adapt to the change of the environment. And that's really what the suspension work of the legs are doing, so that as the spine adapts or changes its environment, no back bend into back bend, or no bend back bend into beautiful back bend, then what you actually get is the suspension of the legs adapting and supporting that and really feeling structure within it. And that's what I think can be really valuable in practices like this. That's what I think can be really valuable in approaching it with a little bit more care or consideration. Taking a few minutes here, moments, just like Natsui, a few knees side to side, simple spinal twist can feel super nice. But what I want you to do is I want you to come back to that thing where we started. So I want you to take a few little kind of movements of the hips and the hands going over your heads. So you breathe in, hips go up and hands go over your head. Nice and simple, nothing too big. And you just do that. For me, this is almost like a return back to where you start. It's almost a return back to simplicity. And it's almost like just a recheck in for your practice. As many of you know, one of the nicest ways that I think it is to sequence is to bring yourself back to your starting point, to have yourself return to center or return to stillness. by doing that, you're taking yourself on this journey, but you're always still coming back home, per se. And that can be a really nice thing. And as you come down, draw your knees into your chest, and then just trace the sacrum line like we did at the beginning. Find your way around the edges of the sacrum. And it's almost like a new discovery again. Oh, wow. Oh, this is a feeling. As I said at the beginning of class, yoga is a continuous practice of choices. Choices that work for your physical practice. Choices that work for your intelligent practice. Choices that work for your emotional practice. What do you need to feel? In a practice like this, when we choose love, or we choose this space, we choose the ability to create spaciousness in the body, we're actually unlocking or opening up the opportunity to deepen our practice, to refine techniques, and make it something super valuable for you personally and for those of you who share. So as we start to wind the practice down, if there's anything else you need to do in this practice, go ahead and take that moment now. But if you're not sure, then don't do anything else. Don't just do a happy baby because you know what happy baby is. Don't just do a supine twist because you feel like it always needs to happen in the end. If you're super happy where you are, just let your feet come down to the floor. And you can either let your knees touch and your feet widen. So that's a nice way to close the practice, which is one of my favorite ways to close a practice. And especially after a back bending practice like this, even sliding down to Shavasana can feel like a lot of work. It feels like a big distance to go. And so ending with spaciousness here can be really, really, really super nice. So to recap where we are and to recap into the closing of the practice, this idea of beautiful backbends is giving yourself the space necessary, the support necessary to grow into the space available. You can pull metaphors left and right on how that can apply to the rest of your life. But when we think about a beautiful backbend, I don't want you to think about a big backbend. I want you to think about a supported backbend, a structured backbend, a backbend that creates space, that takes up space. In a lot of ways, a backbend that requires effort. Because when you put the effort in the right places, and this is your personal practice and the rest of your life, when you put the effort in the right places, it actually allows you to feel supported. It allows you to see progress. If you just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff in all aspects of your life, or you just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff on the mat, yeah, you're going to get tired. You're going to feel like you've done work. But are you taking steps forward to further your understanding, further your journey, deepen your insights? And that's the aim in a lot of these practices. Yes, take what you need, leave what you don't. But also take what you need, understand it, apply it, and then use it. And that's my hope with these teacher practices. So thank you so much for joining practice. And if you'd like to stay longer wherever you are, you do that. If you'd like to come back to close with us, go ahead and wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretch your body out and find your way up to a seat. You can close wherever you'd like with your hands in your heart center, hands together at prayer, hands at your knees. And with a practice like this, I will simply leave you with this. Allow yourself the space to grow. But to do so, allow yourself to build the structure, the support, the necessary understanding so that wherever you go and however you choose to practice has the support necessary for you to step into what's next. Take a full breath in. Long exhale. Together we say namaste. All right, friends, thank you so much for practice. Thank you, Nat, for being here to help. Hopefully you enjoyed this teacher's practice. Hope there was something interesting and insightful here for you to take away. We'll see you next time.